Hello, 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 and welcome to Property Game Changers Live. We're here every week celebrating the power of ethical property investing to really change lives. We're debunking the myth that you need a lot of money to get started in property, and we're inspiring each other to believe bigger, to be bolder, and to be game changers for good. And our guest tonight is a dynamo. He's dynamic, he's passionate, he's handsome. He's TJ Atkinson. Service accommodation operator, service accommodation mentor, author of not one, not two, not three, not four. I believe it's 5 books, ladies and gentlemen.
5 books, yeah.
He's host of the Blacklist podcast and all around superstar. I am delighted to welcome this evening property game changer TJ Atkinson. Hello, TJ.
That intro, wow. I'm literally going to tattoo it on my forehead and just walk around like that.
Coolios. Well, it's great to have you here, TJ.
Thank you so much.
I have been looking forward to this. And I was just saying to you earlier on, you're known for being the property preacher, for telling it like it is, for being a service accommodation guru. And we will come on to that in a little bit. But how I thought we could start off this evening is talking about some of the other things that people maybe don't know about you, which is that also you're doing commercial property development.
Yes.
So tell us all about tell us right from the start, how you even started to go into commercial, how you found it.
Okay, cool. So essentially, it all starts from service accommodation, which we're going to talk about later on. I got into service accommodation. I discovered it was a way to get into property. I never thought property was an avenue for me. It just wasn't on the horizons. Grew up in a council estate. There was piss, there was weed, there was drugs in the staircase. And I hated property. I hated the idea of property. I hated the idea of owning property. So it wasn't on my radar. Made money in service accommodation, got some buy-to-lets, moved on from buy-to-lets, and I did something absolutely crazy. I moved on to the bigger, the bolder, the shinier object, which was commercial conversions. So right now, I'm at a place where I've got to make some serious decisions. And again, what I like about your Property Game Changer show, it's a place to be totally honest. And if I talk about this specific project, I might shed a tear because I might be way over my head on this specific project, but it's a place of growth. I'm so uncomfortable, but I'm growing. And if I don't complete this, or if I don't hack it, I'm not going to get to the next level. So I sold a property and purchased this specific commercial and put the planning application in. It was rejected twice, got a new architect who knew what he was doing and got the planning over the line. But it's a listed building. So I should throw that in right from the beginning. It's a listed building and it come with a ton of conditions. And I've spent today, in fact, speaking to, what are they called? Heritage consultants and just the heritage people, because there are some conditions in there that need to be satisfied, such as they need to come and make sure there's no buried bones or no artifacts in the building, because supposedly they think if I found some, I would throw them away, but I wouldn't do that. So that's what I'm going for at the moment. I'm learning so much about myself and I'm learning so much about this specific strategy. And the reality is, no property strategies for anyone unless you know what you're doing or unless you get someone to hold your hand. There are a lot of people that say, well, just try it out for yourself. The reality is I've made mistakes on buy-to-lets. The most, in quotes, simple property strategy there is. I've made mistakes, getting the wrong product, getting the wrong advice. I'm making mistakes on my commercial conversions, not getting the right person in the first place to do the plans, not getting someone else super qualified, not paying the right people and trying to do things myself. I thought I could actually draw the plans myself and submit it to the council. So I've made a ton of mistakes, but thankfully, I had a great relationship with the vendor. He was my landlord for quite some time because I was renting that building as my office. And he came to me and he said, look, I'm thinking about moving to Australia and I'm going to have to sell. And I said, well, okay, I don't know what I'm doing, but you've got a commercial unit next door. I'm paying you X amount in rent. So I calculated everything together, and I'm like, hold on one second. This is £3,000 this man's getting from me every single month. I can buy this. So I sold a property that was making me around £800 a month, and I purchased this, which makes me, or will make me, around £300 per month if I was paying myself for the empty unit.
That sounds really good. So you're going from a cost for your office to getting paid to have an office, which is fantastic. And I just want to say hi to Faith, who's watching the Property Hustle, guys. You need to watch this Faith on the Property Hustle. She never tires of hearing your story, TJ. And she's also said, buy-to-let ain't simple for newbies. We also have Olivia with us. Everyone makes mistakes. It's all about how you fix them. And we have Talisha, who's saying, yay, property game changer indeed. She obviously knows the TJ. So what I love about that story, TJ, is you saw an opportunity. You were minding your own business, having your office. When the owner of the building told you about that, you saw opportunity. Other people might have just seen a threat that, I've got to move office, but you saw an opportunity and you went for it and you're in there. So tell us a little bit about what your picture is, or maybe that's it that you've already told us. Your picture is for the property. You actually said you had planning in for it. So
I started this discussion with the landlord maybe 2.5, 3 years ago. I didn't know what I was doing. And you're very right. Many people would have seen it as a threat. Oh my God, I've got to find a new office. The reason why it crossed my mind was because of rent to rent and service accommodation. This is one of the reasons, again, and I'll speak for you in a sense. One of the reasons you teach people on rent to rent is to whet their appetite, is to show them that, hey, property is an avenue. Because most people think you've got to do the bigger deals, whereas you can start in rent to rent, whet your appetite, build your confidence. And that's what I did, because again, I didn't know property was an option. So now property is an option through someone else's assets. Now it's allowing me to purchase my own. Now I'm saying, okay, maybe I can look at the bigger deals. So I said to him, I don't know what I'm doing, but I can get an architect, which happened to be a Nigerian uncle. That was the first mistake I made. And so I thought I could find a way around. This guy had no clue what he was doing, and especially in a listed building. And we found over time that we found an email chain between him and one of the planners, and he had been cussing them and swearing at them when he wasn't getting his way. And that's when we had to part ways with the uncle. But what I did was we ended up putting plans in. First plans were rejected, second plans were rejected, and at this point the vendor is getting frustrated. He's saying, look, I want to move to Australia, I'm getting old, and what are you going to do about it? So we came to an agreement. I said, look, the only option I can think of right now is if I pay you £10,000 a month and I take the property from you, and then that adds up to X amount that I'm purchasing the property. And he was like, flipping it, you're rich, mate. I'm like, I don't know why I just said that. That makes no sense. Then I spoke to someone else, and someone told me about a lease option agreement. So we signed an agreement, which means I would be able to put the planning in place, and I would complete once the planning was in place. Now, planning just carried on taking forever. Eventually, I said, look, enough is enough. I did the maths on one of my units, and then I said, look, I'm going to stick this on the market. So I sold that, took 6 months or so. And then on the 6th of March this year, I purchased that commercial unit. That same month, the previous tenants next door, the garage next door, started paying me rent. But because I bought it with cash, it buys me more time to be able to decide how I'm going to move forward. And I'm learning so much, as I mentioned before, and I'm not rushed. Like many people, you've got a bridging loan, you've got finance, you've got investors to pay back. I can take my time on this until I find the right thing that I'm comfortable with doing, and find the right team and the right tools to help me get this developed.
Right, I just want to call out, because are you called? I watch your YouTube, and on your YouTube you actually have this specific property. So if people would like to see it, is it called TJ Atkinson on YouTube?
Yes, it is. Yeah.
So if people want to check out TJ Atkinson on YouTube, you can actually see the property that we're talking about. It's quite a big property, isn't it?
It's absolutely massive.
What's the square meterage?
You're asking the wrong person.
Oh, right. that's my answer.
Yes, that's the difference between you and I. You're very regimented. I'm like, this looks quite big. How many units can we put in here? How much are we going to make? And yeah, that's one of the struggles I'm having as I'm speaking to these different architects. Even the same question came up today. How big is it? What's a square foot? What's this? I said, I don't know. I'll send you the plans. You just do what you need to do.
Yeah.
That's not how modeling works.
Yeah, we had a similar, well, ours wasn't so big. We've changed it. We've got planning to turn it into 4 flats. And there's what I found going through that process is that there are typical square meterages for specific number of units, so they can actually tell just by people who do it all the time. Just once they have the square meterage, they'll know how many units you can get in for different kind of setouts, including all the stairs, lifts, and whatever else. But that's fantastic. So let's go on to the home ground now, and back to the stuff that you know inside out, back to front. Back to the stuff where you're really changing people's lives with, because I've actually seen, I do follow you on Instagram as well, and I saw that some of your success stories today with the mentees that you're working with. So tell us a little bit about what your bread and butter is, what you do.
So service accommodation, for the people who don't know service accommodation, in my opinion, it's one of the best strategies in the world. No, I'm joking. I think it's an incredible strategy. Similar to rent. It's rent to rent, because you rent someone's property with their permission. We re-rent it to contractors, corporates, tourists, and leisure. So those 4 people that need somewhere to stay, and essentially we're competing with hotels, but in a sort of backwards way, because we let them do all the legwork, and then we just sneak up behind them and we ethically steal all the business that would have come to them, and we house them in our property, and that's how we get paid. So I've been doing it since 2013, 2014, and I fell into it. And this is what I love about being an entrepreneur, is every single time I fall into something, that's where I make the most money. Because I trip up and I'm like, okay, this seems like an opportunity. Let me explore it. And most people fall and then they don't get back up, and then they move on to something else. But it's the people that actually stick at something that tends to be able to climb up and learn the lessons associated with making money from the strategy.
Yeah, absolutely. So if people are watching, TJ, and they're just thinking, I want to get started in this, but they might be concerned because obviously there's a lot of volatility or uncertainty, at least at the moment. So what advice would you give to people who are thinking of getting started with service accommodation?
Cool. Just like with anything, understand the downsides. Understand the other side of what's preached. Most people preach about the positive. Service accommodation is amazing. You're going to be a millionaire tomorrow. You're going to make all this money tomorrow. But the reality is, you can believe all the hype you want as long as you know what the downsides are. And the downsides in service accommodation, which I don't hide and I shout it all the time, is escorts, fraud, parties, chargebacks. Once you understand these things, you can build systems in place to start to protect you. Going back to answer your question, with regards to what's going on in the market at the moment, that was another way around. You've got to just be able to understand service accommodation is ultimately about marketing. It's about reaching the people who are on the way to the hotels. So those contractors, corporates, tourists, and leisure, and making sure you can divert them to stay with you. So I think the market is about a £28 billion a year market, with about 40 million people that stay in hotels at the moment. That's why there's such a huge opportunity to make money, because we're looking at them. They're on the way, about to walk through the door of the hotel to spend their £28 billion. And we say, hey, I've got something on offer. How about you check me out? But the question is, how do you retain that person and turn them into a recurring customer who keeps on paying you and paying you? And that's the mistake many people don't make. I mean, that's the mistake many people make. They're looking at the one-off deals. They're looking at the one-off stays, whereas we're looking at building systems to turn that customer into a long-term customer. And that's also what's helped us kind of survive during this period.
Brilliant. I love that. You are certainly a marketeer, and I know that you'll have lots of systems that you can help people with there, something a bit unique. What I loved and what made me very happy here is Olivia's saying, I read your book from cover to cover and I love it. So which book, Olivia? Because you do realize this man's written five published books. So let us know which one. Which one do you reckon it is, TJ?
It would be the Borrowed Property Strategy.
The Borrowed Property Strategy.
Yeah, my accommodation book.
Is that your latest one?
That's the latest one. Yeah.
And people can find them on Amazon.
I don't know why I'm pretending to be so humble. Yeah, that book is really good, guys. Go and grab it. I'm like, yeah, you know my book. Yeah, the Borrowed Property Strategy, sitting on Amazon. top 30 bestseller in the UK. So I'm
Oh,
excited about that. Oh, in the whole of UK. So out of all the books published, it was 26 we hit, and then I think it landed at 32. And then after that, I retired.
yeah, Olivia's saying, yeah, I can see you retired. Yeah. Olivia's saying, yeah, it was the borrowed property strategy, the latest one. We've had another question from Olivia. How do you handle the marketing? Do you use your own resources?
Yeah, so a lot of marketing isn't difficult. You've just got to know the tools. And again, I know Stephanie understands the tools. Things like MailChimp, things like creating funnels, finding someone, turning them into a customer isn't so difficult, but it all comes down to building trust. And that's what funnels are. So a funnel is an opportunity for you to take someone on a journey, build trust, and eventually they become long-term or die-hard fans. And that's my focus. As I said, coming from a marketing background. I'm not a marketer, but just learning so much about marketing, you're able to implement this across the board in every single business that you go into. And I've done the same thing in service accommodation. One of the things that gives me a little bit of strength over other trainers in this business is marketing. My focus is marketing. How do I get the customer from A to B to stay with me? Oh, I love that. I should go back to rapping.
Oh, whoa. I love that. Yes, we need to get some music going on here. So Blessing is saying, nice overview on service accommodation. Please, which other platforms do you use apart from Airbnb?
I love that. Okay, great question. So there are a number of platforms. Number one, TripAdvisor, Booking.com, Airbnb. Who else? And then, do you know what? Let me put it this way: Airbnb, Booking.com, TripAdvisor, and multiple others. But again, service accommodation is not just about what we call OTAs, which are the online travel agents. Service accommodation is about building your own intricate system. I had a meeting many years ago with someone from Booking.com, and I was cheeky enough to say, hey, I know you guys charge 15% commission. Can you drop mine down? And they laughed, like literally from the belly, like, ah. And I sat there thinking, what the heck? Why can't you just drop it down? And in a sort of backwards way, and this is not a quote, what they explained to me was most other OTAs charge around 3, 5, 7%. And Booking.com is charging 15%, which is technically 3 times more than everyone else. And this person explained that many operators, service accommodation operators, are not business people, because they allow customers to keep rebooking through Booking.com. Booking.com expect these customers to be one-off customers. That's why they charge such a high fee, because they expect people like us to be able to retain that person and turn them into our customers. But so many people are focusing on generating business from the OTA. What happens when Booking.com shuts down, which they did last month? What happens when Airbnb shuts down, which they did last month? How do you protect your business? You don't own the relationship with the customer. So again, Blessing, what you've got to do is look at other ways that you can create systems to support your business. And that involves doing every form of marketing that you can think of. Some of my mentees, they go out pre-COVID, giving out leaflets. And one simple strategy is, if you're in a contractor area, we print out leaflets and we tuck them into every single white van we can see in that area. And guess what? Your phone starts ringing, because they're always looking for a good deal. So thank me later when that starts working for you, Blessing.
That is a fantastic tip. Think laterally is the white vans, the contracts, the building sites.
Yeah.
One thing that came to me as we were having that conversation is that your difference is in the marketing for your service accommodation business, because it means you're less reliant on the online travel agents than a lot of people. But also the thing that most people will know about you, TJ, is that you are everywhere. How are you doing that? You've got a very strong personal brand. Do you have any tips for people who want to also build up their brand to start off in property?
Yes, I do. There's so much power. Number one, before we address that, there's so much power to creating a brand. It means if you're getting into property, it means people will throw money at you. If you're offering a product or mentoring or coaching, it means people will find you, and it's significantly cheaper. I think a lot of it comes down to core value. Every single person that I train, and I can say this confidently, and I know this is getting broadcast to so many people, I can say confidently that every single person that I teach cannot say a bad word about me, because I go above and beyond, more than what I've been paid for or more than what I've been contracted for. Now, in terms of personal branding, a lot of people throw that word around, and I actually hate the word. I think the word is just being authentic, knowing who you are, knowing your style. It was just last year that I used to be called the flip-flop, the flip-flop entrepreneur. So it means when I get on stage, I would wear my flip-flops. When I go anywhere, I wear my flip-flops. When I go to meetings with big people, I would wear flip-flops. But that's congruent with who I am. And it's those tiny little things that people say, that guy's a bit weird. Why would he wear flip-flops? But you get talking, and then you deliver the right product, and then they put both of them together. And that's how a brand is formed. You've got to be remembered for something. And I'm not saying like, go and start wearing flip-flops, because that's just me. And for me, the reason I wear flip-flops to everything is because I'm fighting this battle of trying to be free. So the whole idea for me is I don't want to be constrained. I want to be free. And the only way I can be free is to wear my flip-flops in a suit. But essentially, it makes me feel like I'm not constrained. And ultimately, that gets promoted to every single person, and people buy into that. But that's just me being me and doing what works for me. So if you're a quiet person, be quiet, but in your own way, show people how being quiet is a positive in business.
And that's just right. Me. Is Beyonce nearby, TJ?
I don't. Do you know what? So many people are asking me to burn that wig, and I just think everyone's a hater. I think it's my alter ego. Whenever I feel bored, I throw on my red wig. And yeah, we have a bit of fun. It's fun. But again, this comes back to being authentic. I've dealt with so many things with regards to not caring about people's perception of me. And I think that's so important if you want to go into business. You will get haters, you will get trolled, you will get people who question you. But ultimately, at the end of the day, it's just their opinion. And once you kind of deal with that on the inside, it means you can do anything you want to do. And I guess that's where the money actually is. Because it means you do whatever, and someone can say whatever, but it just comes off.
There are always people trying to hold you back, or
there are more people. There are more people trying to hold you back than actually more people trying to succeed, because it's a reflection of themselves. So they say, "Oh, you can't do that. You shouldn't do that." But that's really what they're trying to say about themselves. They know they can't do it, and they think it's impossible. So once you get over that, you realize that, you know what, I am quite cool. I can do what I want to do. And it kind of opens up everything for you.
Yeah. And a Queen of Success is just saying hello, and Blessings is just saying thanks for the answer that you gave earlier. Olivia's saying that she would like to meet Beyonce next time she's at London Auction House.
No, we don't go out in public. No, that stays in my office. That stays in my office.
Oh, right. Okay. That's what we're saying. So, TJ, we've found out a lot about your commercial development side of things and your serviced accommodation side of things, and getting into that. I suppose we can't really not mention how's it been, and you've told us some of the strategies you've been using to get through the coronavirus, but do you want to just tell us about how it's been going?
Yes, of course. So no one, no mentor, no guru, no expert could have predicted coronavirus, apart from the conspiracy theorists who say, yeah, it was blah, blah, blah. But the second phase was, even if you predicted coronavirus, you couldn't have predicted lockdown. And that lockdown was quite crippling for so many people, including myself. Every single business has been affected, every single business. And we were affected majorly. It meant a lot of people couldn't travel. And remember that we rely on people who travel, not necessarily travel into the UK only, but anyone that's not stationary. So anyone that is a contractor, you're on the move. If you're corporate, you're on the move. If you're a tourist, you're on the move. If it's a group, you're on the move. And when that was cut off, my reaction time was a little bit slower. I didn't react. This is something I've been trying to teach myself for quite some time. And I think I saw it play out in this situation. It's not to react, sit in it for a second so you can make an informed decision. I would have preferred to have reacted quicker, but again, it's something I've been training myself for, so I got to see it in action. By not moving fast enough in terms of sending an email out to every single one of our clients, which is how we generate business most of the time. Last year, Christmas, we sent an email out to around 30,000 of our past customers. Hey guys, who's coming back into this area and that area? Is there anything we can do for you? And we banked around £11,000 in about 24 hours from people saying, yes, we were about to contact you. I was about to go on booking.com. This is what I keep talking about. Don't rely on the OTAs. Build your funnel, build your channel, own that relationship. These tiny little things is what's helped us through. We've been able to market to people to say, hey, we're going to drop the price down. We're offering this discount. If you book with us in 24 hours, we can do this and do this. But no one else is doing that because they're relying on the OTAs. Not to say that we didn't take a battering. We've had to give back some properties. We've had to spend time reassessing the entire strategy and saying we were overpaying on this. We were a little bit cocky on this side of stuff. What could we have done better? And there were so many things we could have done better. We had some what we call ghost properties. Out of all my staff, we call them ghost properties because they're always empty. And when someone goes out on a night out, if they don't want to go back home, they always end up at that property doing whatever they're doing. But we had these properties because we were marketing to corporate companies. And with corporate companies, you get one shot. Marketing, saying, hey, stop going to the hotels, come and stay with TJ. And then they say one day, okay, we'll give you a shot. And then you don't have any properties available. So we had these properties sitting there for whenever we get that random booking from a big fish that we wanted to bag. And then we realized that the cost were not worth it. So again, we've had to drop that and we've let go of some of those. We had landlords that we all reached out to, and including these are things that I explain to a lot of my clients and mentees. Send every single one of your landlords an email explaining the situation and asking for some sort of help or resolution. So in my case, we paid some of our landlords rent late, but this is through communication. It wasn't, I'm not going to pay you. We communicated and said, hey, we've never been late on payment. We've never defaulted on payment. Is it possible if we pay you in 2 weeks? Is it possible if we do this? One thing that I love about panicking and sitting down to find a solution was we realized that over the last few years, we had paid tens of thousands in deposits. Many of our landlords and said, or many of our agents, is it possible to use our deposits as the next month rent? Is it possible to release some of our deposits? And these tiny little things, it's rather than panicking and going crazy and trying to run away, because this is what makes an entrepreneur. Don't get me wrong, a lot of us, I've shed a tear during this period because I'm like, oh my God, I'm about to lose it all. But this is genuinely what makes an entrepreneur. The people that weather this situation, trust me, nothing else is going to be able to touch you. Nothing else, because we couldn't have predicted this. But many people, once the going gets tough, I'm not talking about the people that there was nothing they could do. I'm talking about the people who they smelt a little bit of rawness and they ran away. And you've got to start asking yourself, if you want to grow, you've got to go through some very tough situations. And we're probably saving a good £5,000 now just from making those changes every single month.
No, I think that's so true, TJ, that to be successful, you have to go through the downtimes. The successful people are the people who are still on the pitch. A lot of people left the field to play.
Yes, with the football analogy.
So Queen of Success is saying, is London okay for rent to HMO or rent to SA?
Yes. So with service accommodation in London, you've got to know what you're doing. There is something called a 90-day rule brought about by the Deregulation Act 2015 or something. But essentially, you've got to know what you're doing. Many people think you can't run service accommodation in London. That's not true. You've just got to understand what you are doing. Service accommodation is a lot different from many years ago or when it became a strategy that everyone was teaching. You can't just rely on the OTAs, which is why this is what I preach. And they call me the property preacher. I'm preaching, stop relying on the OTAs, because the OTAs are going to bring you mainly tourists. And tourists are going to come for 1 night and 2 nights. But if you start building a system and you've got corporate people that are relocating, if you're working with insurance companies that are rehousing people after there's been a leak, if you're working with charities that are moving displaced or victims of some sort of abuse, they put them in these locations or in some of our properties for a period of time. Once you understand it, then you can operate in London. However, if you are brand new to service accommodation, I say don't operate in London. That's just me. If you're already here, find a solution and work your way around. But if you're brand new, there's so many other places, because when there is further regulation, it's going to hit London first. So why get yourself in there when there are alternatives or so many other areas that are not going to be the first places to get hit with regulation?
Okay, and Queen of Success is just asking, what is OTA?
An OTA, two things. It's either an online travel agent or an online travel aggregator. Think about it this way, Queen of Success. Love the name, by the way. Many years ago, if you wanted to go on holiday, you would go into the high street and you'd go into, let's say, Thompson Local, and you would sit down in front of someone and book a holiday to Egypt. And they would put on their computer and find you a deal for the family. But that's changed. All those companies have disappeared because everything is done online. So now OTAs are places like Booking.com, TripAdvisor, Expedia, and Trivago. Trivago is an aggregator, and the rest of them are online travel agents.
Brilliant. So TJ, now I want to touch on some of the amazing things that you've been doing. Queen of Success is just saying thank you. As well as encouraging people into property businesses such as service accommodation. And really, I know from listening to the success stories of your mentees how that's been really life-changing for people, is that you're also giving your skills and experience to young people, and you've done several competitions and investments with people. And I've seen your two young girls, but I'm going to let you tell us about what you've been doing.
Cool. So again, coming back to where I came from, I genuinely thought I was going to be a footballer, although I can't play football, but there was no representation. I didn't see someone like myself going into property, going into business, making money. So what I now think is my life could be or would have been completely different if I had better imagery, if I had more people showing me that it's possible. So I decided to set up something called the Boys to Men program. So I take 11-year-olds to 17-year-olds and I bring out the fancy cars, I bring out the watches, I treat them, we wine and dine. Though they can't drink, by the way, but we just show them the flashy stuff, and then we attribute it to business as opposed to crime or just the typical I want to be a footballer or a rapper. And we teach them how to get started in property. Now, one of my mentees bags around £2,500 per month as a 17-year-old selling deals. Another one picking up a service accommodation unit as a 16-year-old. The whole idea is if you can show them these things from early, it changes the way they think. And if you can get them making money from early, no crime can attract them. No person can lure them to come and do anything, because what I explain to them during the training is, if someone comes to you and says, I want you to come out on the streets and do something bad, ask them the simple question, will it make me more than what I'm currently making at the moment? And the likely truth is it's not going to. As a 17-year-old making £2,000 a month, they can't entice you. So stay in your house and carry on building that future. So I do that, and that's a program that's done 3 times a year. We've only done one. Well, we haven't done one this year because this year's been an interesting one.
Yeah.
We're seeing it changing people's attitudes, and we're getting parents reaching out to us saying, hey, my child is just stuck at home sitting on the internet looking for businesses to run. And that makes me happy, because what's that saying about idle hands? They're busy now. They're busy looking for opportunities because their perspective has changed. But Black Lives Matter came, and Black Lives Matter has always been there. But it touched me in such a way that I said, look, I know my passion is in helping people. I want to do something to help as many young people create business, get into business. That's my philosophy. I think business cures all. I think Tony Robbins used to say sales cures everything. And it makes so much sense. If you can sell, you can always feed your family. If you can find a way to generate new business, you will always be okay. But I think business cures everything, because the upside is there's no cap. It means the more effort, the smarter you get, the more intelligent, the more lessons you learn, there is no cap. So I thought, let me put together something, a fund that can help kids starting a business. And you're right, my first investment went to an 8-year-old and an 11-year-old called the A Squad, and they run a company called A Organics, and they make organic face mask, and we gave them £1,000. And if you see what the brand is now, nothing to do with me, but if you see what the brand is now, it's gone literally from an idea of 2 young kids that just wanted to do something to now a full-fledged business where they're making sales and they're getting customers who are saying, oh my God, this is incredible. They've changed the branding, they've changed the logo. And I did an interview with them and I said, what does this £1,000 mean to you? They said it means we can actually do what we've always wanted to do. And I'm like, oh my God, that's what I'm trying to do. Oh my. And then they changed the logo. They said they were going to put together an advert. The truth is this, I don't care whether any of them make any money. I care about what happens in their mind. I care about how their perspective changes. The whole idea is this: if they can see that someone is willing to spend, number one, someone's willing to invest their own money into them, self-confidence goes up. Number two, people are willing to buy their product, self-confidence goes up. Now imagine these two young girls at this level, by the time they become 12, 13, 14, 15, 20, their confidence is going to be, I don't need no one to tell me what to do. I can do this by myself. The second one that we've done was a African Caribbean takeaway in Nottingham or Nottingham. And that's going okay. She's using the money on marketing. So she's setting up an entire system, and I'm working with her to create the funnel so she can attract more customers. And we've just picked our third person. This was 2 days ago. We just picked our third person. It's a young man called Benjamin. He runs a clothing brand, which is an empowerment clothing brand. And his logo is unleash your inner beast, or unleash your inner dragon. But essentially, he's just trying to say to people, take over the world, flipping it, you can do it all. And that's the next person that's got the £1,000 grant. And he mentioned what he's going to do with it. He's going to buy equipment. He's going to upgrade. He's going to look for ways to reduce his cost because he can now buy in bulk. These are the tiny things I can take my skill, my experience, and kind of give it to these kids without interfering with their business, because I want them to learn and I want them to make the mistakes, but I want them to be able to do it without thinking they're going to lose their pocket money. They've now got someone else's money to make their mistakes with. And that makes me happy.
That is, I just want to acknowledge you, TJ, and thank you for the work that you're doing there. I watched the video with the 2 young girls. Obviously, I could really relate because I've just got one sister as well, and just seeing them there, it really made my heart swell to know that they're started in business and that they know that you are backing them up and you believed in them, and everybody will be looking at them differently now, and they will be looking at themselves differently, as you said. So hugely important. And Olivia is saying amazing, and Queen of Success also saying excellent. So let's turn now, TJ. It's one of the things we talk about in Property Game Changers is that you have changed the game for yourself, for your family, and also now you're changing the game in your wider community and helping others. But let's turn now to your own family. I know that you have 2 nieces who you adore. So will they be watching this evening, or is TJ?
No, one of them, the older one who's 7, she's not talking to me because for some reason I was doing an Instagram live and she jumped on her mum's phone. And ever since then, she's like, oh my God, let's do an Instagram live together. I'm like, what are we going to talk about? Because you're not going to talk. So what are we going to do? So now she's banned. She said she's never going to watch me again. But again, I try and teach them. There's no way they're going to hang around with me and not learn about money. So we've got her investing now. We downloaded Trading 212. She's buying stocks and shares. I think all her birthday money and money she's ever had, we've thrown it into shares. Now she's panicking because she's going and looking at it every single day. And I'm like, no, it's a long-term investment. But it all started with, I made a few investments in RBS pre-2008, and it's all gone down the pan. So I've said to her, look, when you turn 18, hopefully RBS is still around. I'm going to give it all to you. But you've got to have made £10,000 before, because you're 7 now, up until 18. If you make £10,000, if these shares are worth 100K, you are having it. So I guess that's why she's working hard. Sometimes you've got to bribe adults, let alone kids, to actually do something with themselves.
Wow, that's a fabulous incentive. And I love that you're encouraging that investment, because that life's a game, isn't it? The whole thing. I was thinking property investing is a game. Being able to grow money is a game. I didn't realize that, it is so simple, actually, to be able to deliver value and get to receive value and return. And we've also got Blessing saying, fantastic, well done. We've got Mr. Yahaya. I keep butchering the name when it's quite simple, really. So just wanted to call out the family. And also, I know you've got a sister, because we will come to the podcast, but I've heard your podcast episodes with your sister, who is also a rock star. Is it just the 2 of you, TJ?
No, and I've got an older brother. So that's the parents of my nieces. My brother's quite chilled. So my sister and I, we're just beasts. I guess maybe my sister and I, we hung out a bit more, we fought a bit more. But I think she took some lessons from me. But yeah, she's really proud of her. I've never told her that, actually. Maybe I told her on the podcast, but that's the only time I ever tell her. But yeah, she's doing really well, and she wants to take over the world. And yeah, it's working for her. So I'm proud of that.
And another thing is, I know that you have a strong faith as well.
Yes, yeah. I'm a Christian. I go around the entire country, and I teach Christians how to make more money. I get cussed out a lot on social media. Oh my God, why are you teaching Christians how to make money? Because it's actually the right thing to do, because there is an understanding or a lack of understanding as Christians, for one, because there is that statement that gets thrown around, money is the root of all evil. And whereas that's not the truth, it's the love of money is the root of all evil. And I think a lot of people misunderstand that. And the whole idea is to liberate people's mind and say, hey, by the way, it's actually okay to be wealthy. It's actually okay to have money, because when you have money, you can be more, do more, and give more. And that's the premise of what I do and why I teach that. Because again, I grew up in a church, and I will say this quite confidently. I grew up in a church, and a lot of people in church didn't have any money. And the whole idea is, you come to church, you give, but you've given your last penny, but you don't have any more money to give to your kids to go on a school trip. So I grew up saying, once I make money, I'm going to teach the people I care about the most. Because my mum comes from that sort of place. My mum worked like 10 different shifts every single night. So she didn't get the chance to raise me in that sense. Whereas I ended up raising myself and getting in trouble, sneaking out of the house, getting in fights, getting arrested, just doing stupid things. When in my mind, I'm like, if mum was at home, mum would have beat me, or mum wouldn't have allowed me to leave the house. So again, my premise is, can we show people how to do better so that they can buy back more time? And that's actually what I teach and what I sell. I teach people how to buy back their time so that they can be more, do more, give more. They can spend more time with their families if they want to. Some wives can spend more time with their husbands. Some husbands can spend more time with their wives if they want to. I know many people want to escape that. But ultimately, property allows you, or business allows you, to do more of what you always wanted to do. But you've just got to be serious about it. And many people are just not serious. I know this from speaking to you and from knowing you very well as a friend. Stephanie is so driven. You're so driven, and you have a goal. Whereas many people have what they think is a goal. They have an idea. Having a goal and an idea is two different things. Having a goal, having something that you need to achieve is why most people achieve it. But if you have an idea, you kind of want to be wealthy or rich, it's just not going to happen. So you've got to get intentional.
Yeah, I so agree, and I just want to say, because you've commented there that I'm so driven, and that is a surprise to me, TJ, because I went through many decades of just coasting and procrastinating and not really achieving very much. So it's been amazing in the last few years to really turn that on its head and become driven and feel that fire. But I think what you've been talking about there is a great segue into the other thing that I wanted to talk about today, which is your podcast, because you're doing a lot of the things that you're talking about, you're doing in your podcast. So tell us about the Blacklist podcast.
Yeah, so I created a Blacklist podcast. Essentially, it's a play on words. It's I wanted to interview some of the great Black minds. Again, I preach about representation. I believe my life would be different. I believe many people's lives would be different, regardless of wherever you come from, if you can see other people like you who are breaking the mold and who are achieving amazing things. So what I wanted to do was to highlight Black people in my community who are doing amazing things, so that other Black people and anyone else could say, oh my God, look at that person. I didn't know it's possible. Let me work a little bit hard. So essentially, it's the play on the word Black, and it's the play on the word hacking the minds of successful people to extract bits and bits of information so that I can implement it and apply it to my life.
So it is a phenomenal podcast. My favorite one, or one of my favorites so far, is the one with your sister. I love the family vibe. And if you do go across and listen to it, it's if you're listening on the podcast, it's BLHACK. So BL Hack List Podcast. And listen to an episode, and also do give a review. Not so many people give reviews of podcasts. So take those extra minutes, write a review, say that you heard about it on the Game Changers, Property Game Changers, and leave a review. Let TJ know that you went and listened. And Joe is saying, absolutely, money is a tool which, when used in the right way, can help others and help ourselves. Very true. Very true, Joe. So, TJ, tell us about really how a property has changed the game for you in your life.
So my family, we used to do something which I'm sure many families did. We used to cut up these little coupons, and it allows you to kind of get a holiday. I was so embarrassed to tell my friends. I remember as a family, we went on a cruise to a place called Bilbao. I think it's somewhere in North Spain. And it was the best holiday. It was so crap, but it was the best holiday because it was the only holiday. And my mum only told us a few years later that she had to cut up some coupons to win that. And I was like, oh my God, Mum, why didn't you tell us? We didn't have to go. I wanted to travel more. That was so many years ago. And I caught the bug then because I was like, this is so different from the UK. So property allowed me, and for me, property or business was an opportunity for me to explore. And that's why 2 years ago, I started traveling pretty much every single month. And I think it was 2017, 2018, I did 18 holidays in the year. The year after that, I think I did about 12 holidays. 2020, I was due to travel for 6 months, and then 6 months back, I had booked Dubai for 1 month. I was supposed to go from May till June, but obviously coronavirus. But for me, it's what have you always wanted to achieve? The way that most people need to attack their goals is to sit down, deep meditation, and ask yourself a very simple question. What was it that I wanted to do when I was younger, before life got in the way, before reality got in the way, before fear got in the way, before our friends and family got in the way? That's how you start to live your dream. For me, that was so many years ago, but I always remember the experience of being on this cruise, my brother being seasick, us walking out of the ship and going around and buying little tiny key rings in northern Spain. And I said, oh my God, when I get money, I'm going to do that. But over the last few years, I had this mentality that because I was so involved in my business, I said, I can't leave my business and go on holiday because my business will fail. So I went on a family trip to Mexico for my dad's birthday. My entire family went for 14 days and I went for 4 days because I was panicking, saying, oh my God, my business is going to fail. I've just got new staff. And guess what? I ended up coming back and the business was completely fine. And ever since then, that was my liberation. I said, I'm traveling. If the business fails, it fails. I don't care. I'm traveling. And then, yeah, that's what I do. So come 2021, I will travel maybe 12, 15 destinations. I've already got a few in mind, going to Argentina, going to Bali, going back to Thailand because I absolutely loved it. And I'll be going back to Dubai because the agency have given me a voucher or credit to use for my holiday. So that's at least 4 places that I know for a fact I'm going. But it's a choice. What is it that's important to you? Sit down, create a plan. It's not everyone that needs to have lots and lots of cash. It's what do you really want? Is it a fancy car? Then sit down and formulate a plan to get it. Is it a nice house? Sit down, formulate a plan to get it. It's traveling. Sit down, formulate a plan to get it. All this wishful thinking stuff just doesn't happen. There's got to be a plan in place and you've got to be ready to attack it. And that's why I say I'm a beast. When I get my tentacles into something, I will achieve it. I will fail on the way, but I will achieve it because I'm not ready to give up because I know it's linked to something bigger.
So that's a good next step then. What is your big plan?
Okay, it's to combat this commercial conversion. So at the moment, I'm going through different thoughts. I considered, and I actually reached out to Sam Fongo, the auction guy, and I said, oh my God, I was supposed to give him a call today. I'm considering possibly putting this development for auction, just considering, only because it's bigger than what I anticipated. But at the same time, there's that battle in my mind saying, if you give it up and you don't do it, then you're going back. Whereas just do whatever you've got to do, make some money, fail in this, and then go to the next stage because you can't jump phases. That's the one thing that so many people need to realize. You learn about property today and I say, what's your goal? Well, I want I want to have 100 properties. Well, realistically, you haven't even started rent to rent or service accommodation yet. Yeah. So I want to clock, just like, as you mentioned, everything, it's a game. Literally, that's why you and I have some success, because we see things, we're serious about everything, but we also see it as a game, which means it's got to be played. And that's why you get some people who they download cheat codes. And the idea of our cheat codes is the ability to get a mentor. That's my cheat code. That's your cheat code. It's teaching people and learning from people. That's what gives us the advantage. We can press 1 or 2 buttons and we can say, hey, instead of going left, go right, take a turn. And that's the power of having a mentor. So again, I commend you for what you do in terms of training people. I go and watch all your stuff and I steal ideas from you all the time. I'm not ashamed to say it, because I'm a learner. I'm a student for life. So I'm learning from you on how to build my coaching and training business. So that's up to you.
Well, likewise, you just learn from good people, and everyone's got their unique way.
Yeah.
And because I didn't really learn marketing as such, you just sort of pick up bits and pieces. It can be a different flavor. Like,
Yeah.
you know, when you're playing tennis against somebody who knows how to play, it's actually easier than when you're playing against somebody who's good, but wasn't trained.
Yes, I get you.
You never quite know what they're going to do, and I think that's that's where my marketing comes from. That you never quite know what you can do, because usually I don't know either. But we've talked about that. We've talked about how you've been a game changer and really changed the game for lots of people, both in the work that you do and also in the charitable things that you've set up. So let's end on going back to the people who are starting out, TJ, and I know that you speak to a lot of people who are starting. What message do you want to leave them with about moving forwards within property?
Cool. Look at me. I've got to sit up for this. No. Ask yourself a serious question. What do you want? Simple as simple. What is it that you want? And then work backwards. So say, this is what I want to achieve, and then create the plan going backwards and break down into chunk size, into small little sizes, and say, I've got to achieve this by this time and in this way. Many people still have this impression that property is for the rich old white man, and the reality, it's not. Property is for every single person. So I think if you're looking at a way to get started, then rent to rent or service accommodation, in my opinion, is one of the best. I don't want to call it an elementary property strategy, because it's not, because it's made me a killing. But I only explain it this way just to show people that you can get in with low money, and the barriers to entry are significantly reduced in comparison to other strategies. So if you don't have a ton of money, then consider rent to rent or service accommodation as your starting point. Use that to increase your income. Use that to buy back more time. If it's to quit your job, if it's to spend more time with your family. And once you've got peace of mind, once you've got income that covers all your bills, then you can start to create bigger and bolder plans to take over the world. And you can be a game changer.
That's great advice. And Queen of Success is saying, how can I find out about mentorships?
Okay, so you can just add me on Facebook, if you can find me on Facebook now, and put me a message, or add me on Instagram. I spend a lot of my time on Instagram, and that's instagram.com/TJ Alife. Yes, brilliant.
Yeah, Instagram.com/TJ Alife, Facebook TJ Atkinson. You want to see TJ, you need to get over onto the YouTube, all of the things that, you know, the properties, the service accommodation, everything we've been talking about today is all there on YouTube. TJ, as we've been talking about, is everywhere. So whichever platform you want, TJ is there. You've got the Blacklist podcast as well.
Yes.
So thank you, TJ, for your time this evening, for sharing the jokes as well as the serious strategy and the serious message for people. It's been amazing having you on. And as we close this evening's show, is there anything that you'd like to say?
Thank you so much for having me on the platform. I love what you're doing. And yeah, let's do it again.
Okay, brilliant.
Yeah.
Thanks, 100%. TJ. And so for now, it's goodbye from TJ And it's goodbye from me. Bye. I will see you all next week. Bye for now.